We're mobile. Take Fox Sports 1350 with you using iHeartRadio. It's the IE's home for sports. KPWK AM 1350, Riverside, San Bernardino. An iHeartRadio station.
Kenny Clark, 11-yard loss.
Kenny Clark of the Green Bay Packers.
One of the best in the league.
On Fox Sports Radio.
We are Fox Sports.
Yes, we are back in the great city of Riverside at the iHeartRadio studios, IE Sportsnet, live on Fox Sports Radio AM 1350, brought to you by the good folks at ThinkWise Credit Union. I am your host, Eternal.
And I am the one and only Coach B. You know, when it comes to Inland Empire Sports, you know the conversation starts and stops here. We're also streaming at foxsports1350.com and the iHeartRadio app. We got somebody on the ThinkWise Credit Union Celebrity Hotline.
Yes, indeed. Coach B, caller, you are live on Fox Sports Radio AM 1350. Introduce yourself to our audience.
It is John Murphy.
Mr. Murphy, how you doing, sir? How you doing on this? We saw the tweet already that you're...
I'm jealous, man. I'm a coffee guy.
Yeah, man. I mean, if you're not going to bring us coffee, man, you can't tell everybody you're getting coffee.
You get the free coffee at Arco on Saturdays.
Ah.
I did not know that.
Scratch Power app. It's a good deal.
Okay. That's something to put in the mental Rolodex.
About to say, mental Rolodex is there. But Mr. Murphy, again, thank you so much for calling in. Moreover, thank you for your great work that you did. I know we've been working with you on these articles. But before we kind of get into the articles, kind of give our audience a little bit of background about who you are and kind of what you do.
Well, I've worked in newspapers for more than 40 years, starting up in San Mateo as a, in college when I was a correspondent. And most recently, I've worked in Victorville at the Daily Press and then the San Bernardino Sun. And then finally, the Riverside Press Enterprise.
Fantastic. And now we're working with you right now because we're publishing our fall edition of IE Sportsnet, the magazine. Coach B was talking about working with two people in particular, two people that we've worked with closely. One in particular was Coach Logan, and the other was Coach Julius, Coach Stan from Metawanda. I wanted to kind of get your take on the experience that you had over there with Coach Logan.
Well, it was interesting because, of course, I worked at the Press Enterprise for 3 years, but mainly I covered San Bernardino County. So I covered a few of his games, but I really didn't know him that well. And I think that things were helped out by the fact that I'm familiar with the Centennial principal, Alexis Burrell.
Yes.
And she used to be the Summit girls basketball coach, and she's married to Tony Burrell, who used to be the Summit football coach.
Interesting.
And so I think they made things a little easier for me. Said, hey, Matt, you ought to do this interview. He's an okay guy, blah, blah, blah. So I went down to Centennial, and I met Matt, and he was, on time, really polite, cordial, welcomed me into his office, and we had a nice chat.
Nice. Now you got a chance to, look, because we read the article, and he got a chance to really get in deep about some personal stuff in there. I think a lot of people, I know for sure. I mean, I've been around it for some years, and I didn't know these things. Talk about some of those personal exchanges with you, and how he felt comfortable enough with you to kind of get in deep with some of those personal things you were able to put in the article.
Well, one thing I like to do with people that I interview is, I kind of ask them if there's any adversity that they're facing that people might not be aware of. And, so he had mentioned that his wife passed in 2007, and he was faced with he was really at a crossroads of whether to continue coaching because he had 3 daughters ranging in age from 10 to 16 at the time. And so he was kind of weighing it, do I continue coaching this powerhouse program that takes so much of my time?
Right.
Or do I devote all my time to these, 3 young girls who have just lost their mom? And that was the dilemma he faced.
And, once again, we have John Murphy on the line, correspondent in Inland Empire. I'll tell you this, Murphy, we've done this. I think this is the 4th year we've done this magazine. And I say this, and I don't say this lightly. When I read the article, I told Eternal, I said, hey, this is the best by far. the best article we have ever had, and we're talking about the Coach Logan story, the best article we've ever had in any of the print that we've ever done. I'm a father of 3. And I knew the story of Coach Logan losing his wife, because last year we did their games here on Fox Sports 1350. But you really opened me up to see, a personal side of Coach Logan. Because when you think of Coach Logan, you think of the stoic coach on the sideline, successful. But he opened up and gave you some information that I think that our audience is going to be surprised to read. Because like I said, I'm a father of 3, and I did not think about my mortality until I had kids. But what do you think about him opening up to you and getting so personal? How did that make you feel as a reporter?
It made me feel good that he would trust me to do that. And once again, I think the fact that I know Alexis, the principal, and Tony Burrell, who's an assistant coach for him,
right.
I don't think that hurt me at all.
Right.
And, it wasn't just the whole thing about his wife that I discovered. Like his daughter Madison at one point was talking about the fact that she has so many friends from rival Corona Santiago, and that her Santiago friends, they would be kind of have trepidation about going to meet the big tough Centennial football coach. And what do they find? They find this man who's so hilarious and sarcastic.
Right.
And that's just Matt, if you get to know him away from the field.
Right. And, I'll say this. Last year, when Terrell and I went to meet Coach Logan, when we were going to be the official voice of Centennial on Fox Sports 1350, we both went in there thinking, this is Coach Logan. But he, like you said, he put us at such ease. He was so down to earth. And you would think a coach at that level of success would be completely different. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying. But also another coach that is highly successful in the Inland Empire is over at Etiwanda High School. Talk to us. You got a chance to go see Coach Stan, and he had a training session. Tell us a little bit about that and what's going on over at Etiwanda.
Yeah, first I talked to him over the phone, and then I went over to this kind of nondescript building in this, in this industrial park in Rancho Cucamonga. And he was training some girls and one boy with the basketball. And, most of them were like pre-high school, so very good players. And I got to watch the way that he works with these kids. And I mean, I played a little basketball when I was younger, and I didn't get any kind of training like that when I was a kid. The way that he works with these kids with their footwork and their shooting, it's really impressive. Right.
And we're excited about that. And as we mentioned, we are looking forward to IE Sportsnet, the magazine. I mean, the articles that you did, you got a chance to write the Centennial story for us for Coach Logan. And then you got a chance to write the Etiwanda girls basketball article for us as well. It'll be out in November.
Both of them are featured stories in the magazine, so we're really excited about that. But real quick before we let you go, and again, we're talking to none other than Mr. Murphy, decorated sports writer here in the Inland Empire.
And we appreciate you taking your time to even write the story for us.
Exactly.
We are honored.
We appreciate that. But real quick, just talk, because a lot of our audience is younger, some of them are in high school. Talk to our audience a little bit about the importance of journalism and why it still needs to be something that's cherished and that we have to make sure that we don't let go.
Well, I'm thinking back to when I was a little kid growing up in San Bruno, which is in the Bay Area. And the sports editor in that town was this man with the unlikely name of Warren Scoop Winecoop. and he was the father of sort of my best friend, really, at the time. And he used to cover the whole town, the whole sports scene, like a blanket. And every Wednesday you would go to the doorstep and get the San Bruno Herald and, to read the stories and see if your name maybe was in the paper. And that kind of thing is just vanishing from Americana.
Right.
There's so many news deserts out there. In other words, towns that aren't covered by newspapers anymore.
Right.
And so many newspapers have, sort of dissolved into amalgamations where you have one newspaper in one city covering 7 different cities. And maybe whereas there used to be 5 reporters. Now there's 1.
Right.
And it's really kind of sad. And, it's not completely gone. There's people fighting the good fight like Aubrey Brown at the Highland Community News. And hopefully things can get turned around. Maybe there can be some inventive ways of funding newspapers and reporters.
Absolutely. And, my story is, and I know exactly what you're talking about, just to give you an idea, when I was in high school, and this was in the early 90s, I was my high school sports editor. I wrote for the 2 local papers, which was the Downey Eagle and the Downey Herald American. And then I was a high school correspondent / intern for the Long Beach Press Telegram. And these are things that I loved, and journalism was always something I wanted to do. And I know out here in the Inland Empire does a great job, Eric Paul Johnson over at the Press Enterprise. So as you mentioned, it's just one of those things. We just have to make sure that we keep media alive and we keep it going. So we get excited when we get a chance to work with someone of your caliber to do this work and cover local media. So like I said, I'm humbled when you accepted the offer to write for us. You really have taken IE Sportsnet, the magazine, to a level that we've never seen before.
Not too many compliments now. I'm going to wind up paying you.
Well, again, Mr. Murphy, thank you so much. You enjoy your weekend. And, again, we appreciate you calling in, okay?
Thanks so much for having me on.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Yes, thank you. We appreciate it. And like we said, the article will be out. The magazine will be out in November.
Yes,
and we appreciate everything he says. Like we said, the local guys, the Eric Paul Johnsons of the Inland Empire and Murphy's out there, the people who are still out there covering and giving sports coverage, we tip our cap to all of them.
You are tuned into the new home for IE Sportsnet every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. with Coach B.
Andy Turner. When it comes to Inland Empire sports, the conversation starts and stops here.
On Fox Sports Radio 1350 AM, IE Sportsnet every Saturday morning, 8 a.m.